I was one of 4 Team USA athletes who qualified for the Summer and Winter Games. And with the delay due to COVID of the Tokyo Summer Games, the games were 6 months apart.
What was that like?
Hard. And people were like, oh, you run track and field, you ski, like seemingly complimentary,
Sure.
maybe. It was not. I was running the 400 in Tokyo, and I'm not a sprinter. I faked it for 2 years, somehow managed to qualify for the games. And people always say, like, why would you do the 400? Well, I didn't really have a choice because in Paralympic track and field, it's the largest Paralympic sport at the games. And there's a lot of classifications. Is basically you compete against people with similar disabilities. And for my specific classification, the only running events at the games are the 100, 200, and 400. So it's like if I wanted to do a running event at the games, those were my options. And like in college and high school, 3,000, 5,000 meters. So long distance. And then all of a sudden I'm trying to compete for a 400. And knowing that then 6 months later, I'd be skiing up to 18 kilometers, the training that summer was messy. It was like...
So you were training for both at the same time?
Yeah. And so it was mushing 2 plans together that did not seem to go together very well.
But you did it.
Somehow. Maybe not well.
What was that experience like, right? Because it's like so hard to be consistent at one thing. And here you were doing 2.
It was extremely challenging. And a lot of people like talk about post-games blues, like feeling totally down after the Olympics or Paralympics.
You're like, I got another one.
I thought that's how I'd feel, but like those few weeks after Tokyo, it was just like emptiness. And I was mad at myself because I should feel so lucky that I got to do another one 6 months later, but it was hard mentally then to transition to be like, okay, track is done. Now we're just skiing. And so it was challenging, not only physically, but mentally, I'd say as well.
How did you grapple with that?
Crying a lot.
I was reading Kara Goucher's book and learned of the shower cry. Of like, it's really efficient if the person you're living with is like also contributing to and you're in the water and you don't have to clean up anyway. So a lot of crying. What were the other, or was that just the main tactic?
The main tactic, yeah, was a lot of crying. I think like I had to take a little bit of time off, but not too much time. And obviously basically kind of like use what everyone else did the summer prior of building their base. I had like to do that in
2 weeks.
October, yeah, until I got on snow. And so I tried to get back together with my ski team and put track behind me, which was tough because Tokyo for me was like the reason I gave up my professional career was to make the Tokyo. And it all came down to this weird 60-second 400 race that I don't even remember because I blacked out because I was so nervous mixed with just like so many things. And it was hard then figuring out how to shift that focus to skiing. But I think with skiing, one thing it made me realize is like, yeah, I am an endurance athlete. Like I do enjoy this a lot more, even though I'm not good at skiing yet. And people always laugh when I say that because they're like, you're on the US team. How can you not be good at skiing? And I'm like, well, in comparison to
the
competition,
1% of the 1%.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, got it.
But that's one thing that was cool about skiing was like in Beijing, I did 5 events. So I had like a lot more to look forward to. And if one didn't go well, it's like I had something else to reach for.
I've talked with a lot of people who have done cool things or things that they have aspired to do. And that part's interesting, but it's like the what's next. So Gwen Jorgensen and I had a conversation downstairs. And before we had this super professional setup. And I asked her what happened after she won the Olympic gold medal. She's like, I wasn't afraid of failure. I was afraid of success. Like, you do this thing that you trained your whole damn life for, and then you're like 30 years old and you achieved it. Like, then what? And her answer was fascinating. So refer back to that episode for those listening. If you haven't tuned in yet, it was a good one. So it sounds like there was something similar going on there around Tokyo, where that was like, you left your career for that and that was the pursuit. I am curious. You talked a little bit about it, but like the day after the race, was there a period of gratitude? Was it straight into the tears and the reset and the stuff a whole bunch of training into October?
Yeah, I'd say it was hard to feel gratitude in the moment. And I also, to a certain extent, felt kind of robbed of my experience because it was COVID. Like, I didn't get to stay and watch teammates compete because there was a rule. You had to leave a certain amount of time after your event. My event was the first day. So it's like I was back home tuning in at 6 a.m. like anyone else who was trying to watch the Paralympics. So it was hard to feel that gratitude. I think now, like reflecting back, coming up on 2 years, which is going to be crazy, post Tokyo, I can, because that 60-second race, like if I hadn't been training for track and field, I wouldn't have gotten pulled into Nordic. I wouldn't have this career now. I wouldn't have this platform and be able to be an advocate for the community and for the Paralympic movement. So I feel gratitude now, but in the moment, it was very hard to feel that.
I can only imagine. So fast forward to today. What are we training for?
So I'm no longer training for track and field. I made that decision pretty soon after Beijing. After seeing how far back I was from my competition and knowing I want to be the best in that sport, it was unrealistic to do the flip-flop summer, winter for a period of time, because I'm basically playing catch-up of all these Europeans who have been skiing. They skied to school as kids, and now I'm trying to figure it out at 26 years old. And it was a hard decision to come to say, oh, like no longer a summer athlete, just a winter athlete. And I hate feeling like I'm put into a bucket because I want to do all these things and be all these things and be great at everything. And so that was a hard decision. And so I almost like wanted to find the next thing. So I said, why don't I do triathlon for the Paris Games? And due to the advice of my coaches, they said, if you actually want to get good at this sport, you need to be giving us 4 years, like most Olympic and Paralympic athletes.
Or like 20.
Or like 20. So right now I'm training for Milan 2026 for the Winter Paralympics in cross-country skiing and biathlon.